Alright, Diablo players, we just got an announcement of a brand new patch coming out on May 14th, which is strange because usually we get the patch updates on Tuesdays, but this one is actually going to be on next Wednesday. So keep in mind, these patch notes haven't hit the game yet, but we have the patch notes just released today. So for starters, there is going to be maybe a shift up to specifically the Spiritborn with one of the newer up changes with Unyielding, but for the most part, that is a class that is currently in the worst spot. Everything else is relatively the same here, and it is getting some buffs. So for starters, I'm gonna be real with you guys, this first buff probably doesn't matter. This has to do with the Protector, which is the ultimate that, well, no one runs because we all play the Jaguar one. They are increasing the damage by a significant amount. They're giving you more barrier, and then on top of that, the Thorns. But for the most part, I would say this is like a whatever. It doesn't really matter too much, but that is technically getting buffed. Then Adaptive Stance is the core stat. Bonus is getting increased from 50% to 75%. This could be something to consider because, you know, getting your core stats to a certain point is pretty dang good, especially if everything is GA. This is something that I would not sign out as worthless. But it comes down to what else becomes meta later down the line, because keep in mind, this is going to be a permanent change here, not just for Season 8. And then we have Vital Strikes. The vulnerable damage bonus got almost doubled over here, going from 45x to 80x. The healing actually got increased as well, and then the generation of the vigor got increased by another 5, so that's kind of cool. And then also the key passive, another key passive buff, the skill ranks bonuses, giving you another +2 to all skills. That's fantastic. So I would say overall the Spiritborn is looking a little bit better with these changes. Is it going to shift up from the Quill Volley meta? Well, hold on, there's a very important thing that's later in here that has to do with a specific aspect that you're able to throw on. But anyways, there's a couple different bug fixes, but this thing that I wanted to highlight here, because we're going to talk about Spiritborn first because it's in here, is Unyielding. So they fixed an issue where it would not properly increase the damages of certain skills. Unyielding hits is a very powerful thing that increases, by the way, just to go over this because this is actually kind of important. So when you use a gorilla skill, it increases all of your weapon damage based on your armor. If this now then scales with these properly, there could be something that is massive in terms of a buff for the Spiritborn, because these boss powers do a significant amount of damage. And if it can then now start stacking and adding all these modifiers, who knows how far this will go. I would keep an eye out for Unyielding hits plus any of these specific skills when the patch does hit. So that's something important to mention. This technically is under like some sort of fixes, but that is the newest update with specifically the Spiritborn over here. There's a couple different bug fixes. I'm not going to talk too much about those because I want to basically go over the patch notes. As far as Barbarian goes, you're getting a massive buff on Gore's Devastating Grips. This thing was only really good in Season 0 of the game when it could infinitely do damage. Now it doesn't do that anymore. However, it has been getting a lot of buffs. Now, they said that the damage bonus now is based on the damage per second rather than damage per tick. So as far as the developers' notes go, this is 100% damage increase. It's crazy, but the thing is that Barbarian has been in the state where, like, we had Hoda for one season, and then the rest was like always these little twisters, these little earthquakes. Hopefully, finally now we will actually deal damage with the Whirlwind, as they really wanted it to be good. And then on top of that, the explosion cooldown reduction when critically hit is increased from 0.2 to 0.4. So overall, look out for Whirlwind. If you happen to have Gore's Devastating Grips, I'm assuming this will be something that retroactively changes, meaning that you're going to get the newest update here. I don't think they're changing the text on the wording on it in terms of like the unique, but it should just like work, if that makes any sense. I'll update you guys if it's something that you have to get the new one, because sometimes when they buff uniques, you have to get the new one. Sometimes the old ones will just update. As far as I can tell via the text, this should be just something that you don't need to get a new pair. Twin Strikes, the damage got increased over here by another additional 40%, and the aspect of Dire Whirlwind now also grants the same amount as critical strike damage while whirlwinding, so maybe a little bit of a buff over there. So keep on the lookout for Whirlwind being even stronger, which right now currently it's a pet Barbarian build that technically uses Whirlwind, but you're using it for lucky hit to spawn in more of the little pets. So that's going to be even stronger now. As far as Druid goes, though, we have Earth and Might, the passive, the crit damage bonus got increased by another 20, so it's a nice little bonus. The Perfect Storm, the damage bonus got increased as well. And then with Humanity, they also reduced the damage taken by 2% per rank while in human form, so more survivability for the Druid. But as far as I can tell, Cataclysm is still going to be the go-to. There is a update to the brand new Gathland's Birthright, which is an item that I already mentioned that was pretty bad because it requires a bunch of crit hits, and then you get to have 2 key passives active, which sounds really good. But the thing is that it has to ramp up, and the main problem with this, if Blizzard is watching, because, you know, they do technically watch the Diablo Partners videos, Blizzard, here's what you need to do with this. The main problem with this is that you have a big chunk of downtime. If you want people to run this item, you need to remove the downtime when you are unable to get the big benefit. That's what makes people not want to run the item. At first, I already mentioned before that it would just suck during bosses, because how it works is you need to get a bunch of crits and then you get this big power spike. I get that's the idea in the fantasy, but in reality with Diablo, if you have a bunch of ZDPS, then big damage, people just want to do the damage all the time. You just have to remove the cooldown where like it doesn't have the ability to continuously proc. So that's like the reason why people don't want to run it. Increasing movement speed, cool, but like it's the main problem with the item is that it requires a bunch of hits. I mean, you have to crit. They did change it though. You have to crit 150 times, and then you get a bonus. But during that downtime again is the main problem. Anyways, Book of the Dead, the Skeletal Priest, the damage bonus got increased by 20x. It's almost doubled. That's kind of nice. We have the aspect of reanimation, so the damage bonus got increased over here to another 15x towards the higher end. And then the Blade of Zir. And this is an item that I told Blizzard that they needed to fix. And yo, shout out to Blizzard for giving us a big damage multiplier over here. The inherent summon damage got increased from 60% to 400%. But I still think the problem with this item is it's a two-handed, it's also a sword, should have been a scythe, because that fits the Necromancer theme a lot better. In fact, you're seeing gameplay of like the summoning Necromancer here. So there's a little bit of buffs with it, but would I say that this is going to be the new top tier build? Even though it sounds like, you know, a big amount, going from 60 to 400, it is a big number increase, but it's still, I believe, additive, not a multiplicative one. If this is an X, then it's going to be maybe something to look at, but if it's just an additive one, I would say, yeah, it's cool, it's getting a buff, but I don't see it becoming like top tier. As far as rogue goes, we are getting a buff to poison trap, because that's the point of like the new season for the rogue build, is all about like this Icarus Rose, I believe is the item's name. Still probably doesn't really have that much potential compared to Death Trap. By the way, I will be dropping my Death Trap build very soon. But yeah, this is the item, the Band of Icarus Rose. So the Poison Trap upgrade bonus got increased by another 50%, and then the damage got increased here. So I don't know if they did internal testing. They're like, wow, this is going to be up on par with Death Trap, because Death Trap is the way to go right now with the Rogue. I don't see this competing with it. Like, the numbers are just simply not there. But we'll see. Aspect of contamination. Previously, the poison traps burst damage when it triggers, and then if it crit, you would gain an increase of poison damage. Now, it bursts for an additional amount of damage. So remember, we're getting this buff, and this buff, so that's good. And if that critically strikes, you also get the bonus damage, and now instead of 5 seconds, it's 9. So it's almost doubled over there. But I would say Rogue is already in a pretty good spot. With Sorc, the Shocking Impact now triggers Stun Refresh, so that's kind of nice. I mean, there's a lot of bonuses based on stuns in the build. Stun and Frozen is like the key thing with Sorc, so that is getting a nice little update. And then with the Hail of Verglass, which is my favorite build with the Sorc, they are increasing the damage by a little bit. I don't think this is going to be shifting up the meta, though, just as a heads up. I wish this was. I wish they would just go to the moon with this one, because it's like it's the new thing of the season. It is so fun to play. Maybe they can do a mid-season update again with buffs to this, because I think this is the most fun thing. And if Blizzard, if you're watching this, just make this number make it even stronger than the Lightning Spear Sword. And the reason why is this is your new season's like unique item. Let people have fun. If you want to nerf it later down the line, hey, by all means go for it. But I think that right now, because we're kind of playing older builds with specifically like the Druid and the Sorc, let these new builds shine for a season. In fact, I mean, if it was up to me, I would not nerf it, but let it be incredibly powerful, and then you can nerf it if you want to. If it was me, I would just let it just be strong, and then next season you can make the game power creep again with something else, or just bump it up. But at the end of the day, I just want this to be buffed because it's such a fun build, and you guys made a really cool, unique, and I would like for it to shine. Anyways, Glacial Aspect longer requires Blizzard to be cast, allowing it to be active from effects like Blizzard Enchantment, so that's kind of cool. And then there is some updates over here. So the vendor that sells the Oath Scrolls in exchange for Spectral Ash, the Oath Scrolls can be consumed again to gain Unveiler's Oath reputation. So those little caches, by the way, are absolutely amazing. They did a really good job on giving us good rewards. This is something that I heavily was telling Blizzard to fix, is to drop more GAs when you get these rewards, and these are definitely good. So if you guys have completed your entire, like, seasonal quest line, right, the bounty board where you get the spark at the very end, there is some things that you can return again and again, and then if you can get extra reputation board, you get more rewards. Those are actually good. And then the following boss powers have been adjusted over here. So Cinerat's Flame increased the main boss power damage to another 25x. Then Hatred's Embrace, the modifier boss power no longer falls off when switching weapons. I didn't even know it did that, but that's going to be a nice little update over here. There's a bunch of different bug and accessibility options and fixes of certain bugs not, making the game work properly. I know there's a bug right now. If any of you guys have done the Infernal Hordes, it says you're always at wave 0. That's kind of an annoyance because sometimes you forget what wave you're on and maybe you want to go do something. Maybe the world boss is starting pretty soon. So hopefully they can adjust that. Another thing that I've noticed personally, it's not in these notes as far as I'm aware of, but like sometimes there's a Belial Eye and you can't click on it. That's another like annoyance that I've definitely seen. And there's still the bug where goblins randomly disappear, but a bunch of other like general bug fixes were mentioned here. I'm not going to go over these because I just want to again go over like the balance update. That was the point of the video. But if there's anything that I missed out on that you guys feel like has huge potential, let me know down below. But I would say just as a quick little recap, Barbarian Whirlwind is looking pretty good, and keep in mind with the Unyielding Spiritborn, that's something that's up in the air. It could be super broken and OP, but as far as it goes, I don't see anything changing up the meta. Again, there's some buffs to like minions and stuff, but again, I think that the Blood Spear Necromancer is still going to be the king. Anyways, that's going to wrap things up for the patch notes. If you guys enjoyed it, drop a like on it. If you're new here, hit subscribe, turn the bell so you can keep up to date with the latest news, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. And let me know what you think of this patch down below. Peace out.